All right, welcome to episode 15. Maybe this is an episode? I'm Reed Evans. On Twitter, I'm Reed N. Evans, and this episode is from help from at MetaMJE, who said that he would like to see some simple stuff regarding maybes and or options. So since I'm in JavaScript with Lambda, they call it maybe, but some other languages call it option, and there's probably a few other names for it. But without any further ado, let's take a look at when we might use one of them. So what we have here, if we uncomment, is a bad function. This function takes a value. In this case, we're just going to assume it's a number. If that is 0, then we're going to throw, right? Else we're going to return x plus 1. This is obviously very, very unfunctional code because it has this side effect here of throwing. Now, there may be a very real reason that your function, you don't want to handle this 0, right? Or the function that follows this function in the chain, you don't want it to handle 0. That's perfectly valid. That doesn't mean you've written bad code by any means. The problem is that if you choose to limit yourself to non-zeros this way, you run into some problems. So if we call bad function, nothing happens. We kind of actually break this Repl here a little bit. I say we break the Repl. The Repl does everything that it can. So we pass a 1, then obviously it'll give us back a 2. A 2, it gives us back a 3. If we pass 0, though, see how we're not actually updating the return value from this function. So we may get the same thing every time, but when you throw, you're taking it out of the complete context that you can actually chain through. So that's really a poor way to go about writing code. So let's look at a little bit better of a function. And this introduces maybe. Let's remove the last one there. So this introduces maybe. So maybe is used to signify when we may or may not have a value. So it's very similar to null or undefined, but it's in this case, if x is 0, we're going to return maybe nothing. The important part here is that maybe nothing is still something. It's something that represents nothing. And so maybe if we call into this, we can see some examples. So if we call our better function with 2, then we get a just, maybe.just of 3. If we pass 0, then we get maybe nothing. But maybe nothing is infinitely better than undefined, because undefined is a value is not even really a value. And we can look at that here in just a second. So you see that in this case, we were able to just say, you know what, if it's 0, then return nothing. If it's not 0, then we can return maybe of x plus 1. Now, what's the benefit here? Well, because we are dealing with a maybe, we can do things like .map. And maybe we want to add another 1, right? So if we comment out our last line here, then we'll see that we actually get just 4 because we had a better function, we passed 2, better function, then does a maybe of whatever that value is plus 1 gives us 3, we map over it again, and now we get 4. So this is really neat. We can still chain over these things. We wouldn't be able to chain over that in our bad function here. That wouldn't work because we're throwing, so we're taking ourselves out of our flow. And because nothing is a value, I can actually map over that too. We still get nothing. Everything's fine though. We can still continue chaining through. So if I comment this guy out, we still have nothing. We had nothing when we returned from better function, and map only works on the just side of a maybe. So it just passed the nothing on through. Let's look at another example real quickly here, and we'll call nth, right? So if we take, nth in this case is going to take the 8th element of this array. Obviously that doesn't exist, and so we return undefined. This is another place where you can use maybe to really help you continue chaining things. So in this case, yeah, we get undefined. So if we try to get the 8th element and then map over it, well, we get essentially undefined is not a function, right? We cannot read the property map of undefined. So essentially, returning undefined is very, very similar to what we were doing to the problem that we had with throwing, in that we immediately lose the ability to continue chaining. So let's look at a different approach. and introduce a little bit of composition too. So what if we take that nth function and then we compose that with maybe to maybe? So what maybe dot to maybe does, it's a function that it returns something that might be like a nullable or undefined, and it'll return a nothing in that case, or it'll return a just of the actual value. So what does safe nth do for us? Well, if we try to take the 8th element of this same array again, we get nothing. Let's comment out this guy here too, so that we're sure we're getting this one. So safe nth, if we try to take the 8th element of an empty array, we get maybe nothing now. What does that do for us? Well, what's interesting now is that we can map over this. We don't get the error like we got before. So if we were to look at this, we're going to get errors. And that's not fun because we can't map over undefined. But we can map over a nothing. As it turns out, we can map over a something as well. A just in this case is what the name of it is. So if we take the 0th element of an array of 1 and 2, and then we map over the 0th element and add 1 to it, then we get 2 because we initially had the 1 and then we added 1 to it. So those are a couple examples of using maybes, and in this case seeing that maybe is a functor because we can map over things. So if you have anything where you were trying to throw arguments or to exit early out of a function rather than dealing with that potential value, maybes can be used there. They can also be used, in this case, I really like this example where we're just composing a function that has this, that will return undefined, a function that we don't really control. This comes from Ramda. And then we're actually just able to compose it with the maybe dot to maybe and then make ourselves safe again so that we can do some stuff. So this one compose here, this safe nth could be used anywhere in another compositional chain, kind of looking forward a little bit if you wanted to use this sort of thing but still chain it. Maybe can really help you do that because you're not returning nothing, you're returning something that represents nothing that, as it turns out, has all these fun, cool features like map and chain and equals and all these other different things that you get with a maybe. So this has been episode 15. Maybe this is an episode. Thank you very much, Meta MJE, for the reference for this. And if anyone else has any other suggestions, definitely tweet at me. I would love to help answer your questions. Thanks.